Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping on our sandals, grabbing a spear, and heading all the way back to 431 BCE. We're wading into the massive, sprawling world of ancient Greece with the 2018 title, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
It is a game that really marked a huge turning point for the franchise. I mean, a lot of people have very strong opinions about it because it just changed the DNA of the series so much.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing about today's Deep Dive. We aren't just going to rattle off specs or read a press release from Ubisoft.
Right.
We're looking at this game through a very specific and I think very relatable lens. We got our hands on a review by a specific gamer. It's called Stonemonkey's Game Review. And we're just going to refer to the author as this player.
And this isn't your typical tech-heavy review, is it? Not about frames per second or anything like that.
Not at all. And that's exactly why I love it. This is the story first, challenge second perspective. This player is refreshingly honest about their skill level. They're not trying to be some esports champion.
No, they're just trying to get lost in a good story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a huge demographic of gamers that, often gets overlooked in the whole conversation. So here's our mission today. We're going to analyze this specific review. We'll break down what they loved, what frustrated them, and we're going to cross-reference that with some factual data we have from the Assassin's Creed Wiki, just to see how their experience lines up with the game's actual design.
And just to be clear, this player did give a rating, but we're going to completely ignore the math. We're not here to give it a score.
Nope. We're here to unpack the specific pros and cons they identified just to understand the experience.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's dive in. Before we get to what this player thought, we should probably set the scene. What exactly is the beast that is Assassin's Creed Odyssey?
Well, historically speaking, we are in the Peloponnesian War. So this is a massive, chaotic conflict between the two superpowers of ancient Greece, Athens and Sparta.
So it's not just good guys versus bad guys. It's more like a civil war.
Precisely. And in the game, developed by Ubisoft Quebec, you step into the shoes of a mystios, a mercenary. You aren't a soldier following orders. You're an outcast carrying the broken spear of Leonidas. Functionally, you are a gun for hire.
And this wasn't just another stealth game where you hide in a hay cart, right? This was a big shift.
It was a massive shift. I mean, this is where the series fully embraced being an action RPG. We're talking dialogue choices that actually change outcomes, branching quests, even romantic options.
And a map that is just huge.
Absolutely enormous.
Which, brings us back to this player. I love the profile they set up for themselves right at the start of their review. They admit pretty candidly that their gaming skills are somewhat subpar.
Which is honestly so refreshing to hear.
It is. They explicitly say they prefer playing on easy or story mode. They're not there to get frustrated or, smash their controller. They are there for the narrative, the art design, and the music.
They want to be captivated, not punished. And that context is so crucial. Because if you're playing Odyssey on Nightmare difficulty, it is a completely different game than if you were playing it for the story. This player is looking for immersion, not friction.
So let's look at the first big pillar of that immersion, the narrative and the hero. In Odyssey, you get a choice right at the start. You can play as Alexios or Cassandra.
Right. And according to the developers and the wiki data we have, both characters follow the exact same script. The plot beats are identical, so there's no wrong way to play, at least for the story.
But this player had a very clear preference. They chose Cassandra. They specifically noted that they felt her character design and voice acting were just superior to Alexios.
That is a sentiment shared by a lot of the community, actually. Even though the lines are the same, the delivery matters so much. Cassandra is often cited as having this very dynamic, emotionally resonant performance.
It really shows how much acting brings to a game, doesn't it? I mean, if you're going to spend 100 hours with a character, you want a voice that sticks with you.
Absolutely. And speaking of that 100 hours, what did this player think of the story itself? Because for someone who plays for the plot, this game asks a lot of you. It's a long journey.
It is a saga. This player describes the story starting as this really personal revenge tale. You have this childhood tragedy, being thrown off a mountain, family torn apart, but then it just expands.
It always does in these games, right? It can't just be, I want revenge. It has to be, I need to save the known world.
Exactly. This player highlights how it shifts into a high-stakes mission to stop the cult of Cosmos, this secretive organization that's, manipulating the war from the shadows.
And this player found that captivating. They gave the story high praise.
They did. And if you look at the game mechanics, it makes sense why the story feels so big. The wiki mentions the mercenary system and the fact that you can fight for both Athens and Sparta. You're this agent of chaos in a structured war. So the fact that this player found the main thread so captivating, despite all that distraction, really speaks to the strength of the writing.
It is impressive. Open-world games often suffer from a loss of urgency. You know, the world is ending, but first I need to go collect 10 bear pelts. But for them, the narrative momentum held up.
It's interesting you mention the distractions, because that leads us perfectly into the next pro on this player's list, the atmosphere.
Ancient Greece.
Ancient Greece. This player was just floored by the art direction. They called the world beautiful. And knowing the tech behind this, that Anvil Next 2.0 engine, it really did push the visuals for its time.
It did. The wiki notes that the developers specifically wanted a vibrant Greece. A lot of media portrays it as like white marble and dry dust, but they went for color and forests, and especially those blue seas.
And speaking of those blue seas, the audio experience, this is one of my favorite details from the whole review. This player loved the sea shanties.
The crew chanting.
Yes. You're on your ship, the Adressia, sailing across the Aegean, and your crew is singing in Greek.
Yeah.
This player pointed out that they loved being able to toggle that on and off, and that the music just fit the tone perfectly.
That is such a great example of immersion. It's not a gameplay mechanic that helps you win. It's a detail that makes you feel like you're there. It grounds you in the setting. It turns a loading screen, which is basically what sailing is, into a cultural experience.
But there was another layer to the atmosphere that this player really geeked out on. They mentioned a bonus point in their review. The educational value.
Ah, yes. The mini in-game encyclopedia.
They loved it. That when you discover a historical location, the game gives you real-world information about it.
That is a feature Ubisoft has leaned into so heavily. I mean, the game takes place in such a pivotal time. You've got figures like Pericles, Socrates, Herodotus just walking around.
Yeah.
For a player who loves history, like this player evidently does, the world isn't just a backdrop for fights, it's an interactive museum.
It's like a museum where you can climb on the exhibits and nobody yells at you.
Ideally, yes.
So we have a great story, a beautiful world, catchy music, but this is a game. You have to play it. And this player admits they aren't the most skilled. So how did the gameplay land for them?
Well, this is where those controversial RPG elements come in. This player specifically praised the shift toward RPG mechanics.
Which was a big point of contention for some of the old school fans, wasn't it?
It was, but for this player, it offered freedom. The wiki details 3 main playstyles in the skill tree. Hunter, which is ranged, Warrior, which is that toe-to-toe Spartan combat, and then Assassin for the classic stealth approach.
And they liked that they could choose a unique playstyle. They mentioned the true Spartan warrior style or the classic assassin. It sounds like the game accommodated their subpar skills pretty well.
That is the beauty of RPG mechanics for accessibility. If you aren't good at like twitch reflexes or dodging, you can just build a character with heavy armor and high health. You can stat your way out of a problem instead of skilling your way out of it.
And they explicitly said the control system was easy to understand. That's so crucial, because if the controls are fighting you, you just can't enjoy the story.
Exactly.
Now, here is where it gets really interesting for me, the mythology. This player gave bonus points for how the game interpreted Greek myths.
The Assassin's Creed series has always kind of flirted with the supernatural, usually explaining it away with Isu technology, this ancient, advanced civilization. But Odyssey really leans into the monsters.
This player specifically mentioned the fate of Atlantis content and the mythological creatures.
Right. The wiki lists creatures like the Minotaur, the Cyclops, even Medusa. For someone who loves mythology, seeing these interpreted through the lens of the game is a thrill. It validates the myth that the people of that time actually believed in.
So far, this sounds like a glowing review. Yeah. Beautiful worlds, great Cassandra, fun myths, easy controls. But this player didn't give it a perfect score. There were friction points.
Every game has its grind.
And this player found it. The first con they listed was the repetition. They said the replay value is okay if you have a lot of time on your hands.
They warned that side missions can become very repetitive. And looking at the structure of the game, that adds up. You have the mercenary system, the constant bounty hunters, the nation power battles. It's a loop. You do it for 100 hours, it's going to feel like a grind.
But the bigger complaint, the first major deduction they made, was about the travel.
The map size.
They called the map huge, and the wiki backs this up. It's like 100 square miles split between land and sea. That is massive.
It is technologically impressive, but this player felt it crossed the line into being just tedious.
They said, and I'm quoting here, "I just don't like to waste too much time on the road when visiting same places." They felt there weren't enough quick travel points.
This is a classic open world design dilemma, isn't it? The developers, they want to show off the scale of the world. They want you to ride your horse and sail your ship to feel the distance.
But this player, who focuses on the story, just wants to get to the next plot point. If you have to spend 15 minutes sailing from Kefalonia to Attica just to talk to one person, that kills the narrative pacing.
Yeah, it turns the game into a commute. And for a story-first player, empty time is bad time. If nothing's happening, the immersion breaks. You start looking at your phone. You start wondering why you're holding the analog stick forward for 10 minutes straight.
But the travel issue was just an annoyance. The next point. This was the bad and ugly. This was the money talk.
The monetization.
This player did not hold back here. They strongly criticized the in-game purchases. And it wasn't just a generic, "I hate microtransactions." They did the math.
That's what stood out to me. They actually calculated the real-world value of the cosmetics to prove a point.
They used a specific example from the store. A cosmetic change for a weapon, literally just a skin to make it look cool, costs over 200 in-game currency. They worked that out to be about $7 Canadian.
$7 for a digital sword texture.
And when you stack that up against the cost of the full game, this player mentioned they bought the whole game on sale for $29.99.
That is a jarring comparison. When you buy the game, you get the 100 square miles, the voice acting, the music, the entire history of Greece. And then for a quarter of that price, you just get a different-looking sword.
It really highlights the disparity in value. This player calculated that buying a full set of cosmetic armor and weapons would cost nearly as much as the entire game itself.
It feels disrespectful to the player's wallet.
This player even noted that they don't mind that the store exists. They aren't against the concept of supporting developers. They just mind the ridiculous pricing.
It breaks the immersion, too. You're lost in ancient Greece, enjoying the history, and then you're reminded that there's a marketplace trying to sell you a glowing sword for the price of a lunch. It snaps you right back to reality.
It's targeting the whales, isn't it? The people who spend thousands. But for a regular player like Stonemonkey, it just leaves a bad taste in their mouth.
It does. It feels like the game design is being compromised just to nudge you toward the store.
So we have this review from this player that paints a really vivid picture. On one hand, you have this sweeping, beautiful, educational experience with a great protagonist.
It's true epic.
But on the other hand, you have a repetitive grind, a map that disrespects your time with endless travel, and a store that disrespects your money with absurd pricing.
It is the paradox of modern AAA gaming, all summarized in one user review.
So let's bring it all together. If we look at Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, through this player's eyes, what's the verdict?
The verdict is that Odyssey is a triumph of world building and narrative, specifically if you treat it as a vehicle for a story. The transition to RPG mechanics worked for this player because it allowed accessibility. They could be the hero they wanted to be without hitting a skill wall. But the scale, the very thing that makes it so impressive, is also its biggest weakness. The world is just too big for its own good when it comes to travel. It turns exploration into a chore.
It's a love letter to ancient Greece, but it comes with a hefty postage stamp.
That is a very good way to put it. And the microtransactions are the ink stain on that letter.
Reading this review and looking at the data, it raises a really big question for me. We're seeing games get bigger and bigger. 100 square miles, hundreds of hours of content.
It's an arms race for content.
Right. So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. In modern gaming, at what point does a massive open world stop being a feature and start becoming a chore?
That is the million-dollar question.
And when we see cosmetic pricing hitting these levels, $7 for a weapon skin, are developers designing these economies for the average player, like this player? Or are they just hunting for whales at the expense of everyone else's immersion?
It's a question every gamer needs to ask with their wallet. I mean, if we keep buying the skins, they will keep selling them.
Absolutely. Think about that next time you open up a map and see 1,000 little question marks staring back at you. Are those adventures or are they just a to-do list? That's a wrap for our deep dive into Stonemonkey's review of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Thanks for listening and keep your spear sharp.
See you next time.